Good morning. You've made it to the weather desk. You're hearing the voice of meteorologist Craig Moeller. Hope you had a great weekend. I'm so glad you found us here on the weather desk. We do this every weekday morning starting at 9 o'clock Eastern time from the 13 News Now studios. And you found us here on 13 News Now Plus. Maybe you've got us here on YouTube. However you found the weather desk, we're happy you're here. We tackled today's top weather headlines, and there's a lot to talk about this morning. You know, the West Coast been dealing with excessive rainfall. We talked about this from the weather desk last week, setting up, this atmospheric river, bringing all of this moisture into the West Coast. We knew it was going to be a problem. That's how things have played out. We have some big international stories. A storm system referred to as Claudia doing a number back on Portugal and Spain. We'll take you over there. Some of the headlines that we are dealing with today. We do have more rain in the forecast for California. Snow up into some of the western resorts. We're going to show you what's happening in Wyoming, Colorado. Then we got to talk about a snow drought for New Hampshire. Now, they've got the snow guns out there. They are making snow, but we'll take you up there and show you their situation. And as you will see in a few minutes, there's a little bit of natural snow falling up there in the Northeast this morning as well. So maybe a little more good news for our northeastern U.S. ski resorts. Let's take a look at our other headlines. In addition to these top two stories, we've got those storms, as I mentioned, moving over Europe. Again, Portugal, Spain, into the U.K., all those areas dealing with quite a bit of rain, and I believe there's even a tornado. We'll show you that. Expanding aid to Jamaica. We've had Operation Blessing and Mercy Chefs from the Hampton Roads area down there. Well, they're now having access to some facilities which are helping them multiply their efforts down in Jamaica, and we'll fill you in on what's going on. I also have the extended U.S. outlook over the next couple of weeks. You might be wondering, is it going to get warmer? Is it going to get cooler? Do we have more rain in the forecast? We'll look ahead. And we've got the week ahead in more detail for Hampton Roads as well. So those are the weather headlines from the weather desk. Let's get into what's happening right now. And we're going to take a look at the West Coast, specifically zooming into California. You see more rain. There's that song, they say it never rains in Southern California. Right, not the case now. Excessive rainfall just off to the north and west of L.A., but this is going to eventually spread farther to the south and move down farther along the California coast, staying north of San Diego, but a lot of rain down there for L.A. a little bit later on. The rain has been excessive across northern parts of California and even some more wet weather up into Oregon as well. Now, we take a look at this setup, and basically we've got an area of low pressure curling back towards the coast. We're going to show you what's going to happen next with this in just a moment, but Southern California over the weekend cleaning up after getting slammed by this deadly storm system. The system dropped more than a month's worth of rain in just 24 hours, triggering flash flooding and increasing the chance for mudslides in some areas. ABC's Jacqueline Lee has a look at the aftermath in Pacific Palisades.
This morning, California recovering after a powerful storm soaked parts of the state. And a 71-year-old man died after powerful floods pushed his car off a bridge in Northern California. 2 to 3 feet of water overtaking the road, according to California Highway Patrol. And down in Southern California, more than 22 million were on high alert, battered by heavy rain. The deluge so intense, some kayaking down residential areas. The slow-moving system toppling this massive tree in a Los Angeles neighborhood, obliterating a car parked on the street. Thankfully, no one was inside.
He told me that it sounded like it was an earthquake, like it was a really loud noise, and he said it was my car that got crushed by a tree.
In Altadena, hard hit by the Eaton wildfire earlier this year, sheriff's deputies warning people of debris flows. Burn scars posing the greatest concern. These hillsides are so steep, and the wildfires, they loosened that topsoil, making it that much more vulnerable to mudslides, which is why officials have closed so many busy roads. A mudslide overtaking a highway in Lake Arrowhead. Crews working to assess damage along Pacific Coast Highway and clean up debris.
So let's go ahead and take you to what's happening now. Again, we've got this area of low pressure, and there's an occluded front. You can see there's this occluded front which extends all the way down to this next area of low pressure approaching the southern part of California. more rain, the bottom line, and some snow for the higher elevations. Now, as we zoom in to the LA area, you can see this is that level 2 threat for excessive rainfall or flash flooding. You get the Santa Barbara, LA, all the way down to just northwest of Oceanside. There's going to be a lot of additional rain. So far, more of the heavy rain has been a little farther to the north, but this is expected to fill in as we go through the day. So it's a level 2 threat for flash flooding. As Jacqueline Lee just mentioned in that story, the concern really with a lot of the burn scars from all of the wildfires that they were dealing with earlier in the year, that has been a big issue. You get excessive rainfall and it runs right down. The soils can be loosened. And again, mudslides, landslides, a concern as well. So Southern California, certainly watching that very carefully. You can see up through the San Francisco Bay, they've got a level 1 threat. Also Vegas and Phoenix under that level 1 threat for excessive rainfall. But the most likely area, this level 2 area down around LA. Now, as we look farther to the north, you can see it extending all the way up through Sacramento and Redding, that level 1 threat. I wanted to talk to you about what's going on around Reno and Tahoe. We do have snow for those western resorts. You think about some of the great skiing out west, and while it's rain at the coast, those higher elevations, they are getting snowpack, and that snowpack is a tremendous blessing. Not only for the ski resorts, thinking, okay, that's great. They're getting a lot of snow. That's awesome for the ski industry. But these mountainous areas, they rely on snowpack and the higher elevations to help with the water supply as that stuff melts off later in the year. So you can see Bear Valley up through Kirkwood and Reno. Again, Tahoe getting some rain, or getting some snow rather, and again, some heavier pockets of snow up around Feather Falls and areas to the north. It's rain across Southern California, and we do have a couple of flood advisories already in place with more rain to come, eventually filling in down here closer to LA. All right, you see how the moisture is feeding in. And again, that will be the case. This is coming in. We've got a line here kind of moving along. Again, an occluded front, which is a mature storm system, area of low pressure up here. Second one developing here, and that one's going to eventually bring more rain into the LA area. So the moisture streaming in. I told you we check on some other resorts out west, like, check it out. We'll check in with Jackson Hole, Wyoming. They're getting a little bit of snow. The snow extends down to the south of that. Areas around Salt Lake City earlier seeing some light snow up around Ogden. And we saw some through Immigration Canyon and back up. I think about the resorts, Deer Valley, Park City. Up the Cottonwood Canyons, Big Cottonwood, Little Cottonwood Canyon, some snow showers earlier. Right now, most of the snow is pulled off to the northeast of that, but those highest elevations still getting some snow in places like Snowbird and Alta and Brighton. Those ski resorts looking forward to getting some more natural snow there. Back in Colorado, they are getting snow. Earlier, there was a little bit showing up around Vail. Aspen, seeing some snow approaching from the southwest down through Telluride. We've got some snow down that way as well. So some of these resorts out west, Colorado, saying, come home. Bring it. Need that snow. And again, all of this snow across portions of California into Utah, Colorado, these areas, they welcome that snow for multiple reasons. But this is going to provide water when it eventually all melts off and runs down into the river stream, or the river feeds and the streams. That all helps with their water supplies, and they've got reservoirs to help kind of manage that runoff as it melts later. All right, over in the East Coast, different story though. You can see they do have some light snow this morning up in New Hampshire, parts of Vermont, obviously New York State into northern Pennsylvania. But this area here has been in a little bit of a snow drought. So it's been a different story. While the West Coast dealing with excessive amounts of moisture, on the East Coast specifically, ski resorts in New Hampshire, they're having to make their own snow. And this is just days before opening for the winter season. John Schneider shows us more.
On Cannon Mountain, snow falls all day long.
Quite confident in our water supply. I think what we're hoping for are cold temps, drier air, and snow when possible.
To make it, ski areas use machines called snow guns. They route water from a nearby source, like a pond or river, add some pressure, and that's as the statewide drought continues.
And we were a little concerned back in September but then it started raining in October, and we've had a pretty damp November thus far. So our water supply at this time is good.
As resorts monitor conditions, hundreds of these snow guns will keep on running to make sure that the mountains are ready for visitors. Many resorts are on track to open this month. For Loon Mountain, that's next Friday.
We've certainly gotten some natural snow, which certainly helps. It makes everything look a little white around here, but we're excited for the next week.
And for Bretton Woods, that's Saturday, the first to open statewide.
We've got a new double diamond glade, so that if we do get a lot of natural snowfall, that will be a new trail for folks to try out.
The Department of Environmental Services says it will work with ski areas to monitor conditions. That's while staff work around the clock to make sure the slopes are ready to shred.
When you see a snowmaker, thank them and buy them a beer.
Sure, there are a lot of folks very, very appreciative of all the work and effort that goes in. But again, they do produce their man-made snow, and then as they get more natural amounts of snow and the forecast coming into the winter, we do expect some serious Arctic air to break out eventually as we get into early December. Some of the longer range modeling suggesting we could see some of that. I think they'll have either some significant snow later as we get into the early part of the season, or at least primo snowmaking conditions. If it's super cold and dry, they crank up the snow guns and they can really add up. So we'll see how things go. And again, that was John Schoenheider reporting, so I appreciate that. All right, we're going to turn our attention from New Hampshire over across the pond and take you to Europe, specifically Portugal and Spain, and then up into the UK. Some of these areas hit really hard over the weekend. Let's talk about Claudia. This is what they were calling it over there, the meteorologists in Spain. They left a path of destruction across several countries. Take a look at this. This is the aftermath in Portugal. There was a tornado there that ripped through the coastal town of Albufeira in the southern part of the country. Now, we know at least one person died and 24 others are hurt. An elderly couple also died during flash flooding in Lisbon just days earlier. Parts of the UK are also drying out after the storm triggered severe flooding there. This is a look at conditions in Monmouth and southern Wales. Now, on Saturday, again, the floodwaters here were reportedly strong enough to break down doors. Rescue workers had to use boats to get through the streets. All right, tomorrow, we're going to turn our attention back here to Jamaica. Tomorrow marks 3 weeks since Hurricane Melissa came right up through the western part of Jamaica, making landfall. It was a Category 5 around Black River and areas all along the southwest coast of Jamaica, really just destroyed. Remember, it was a Category 5 storm when it came in. Right now, there are still a couple of organizations from Hampton Roads down on the ground helping things out with the recovery. Now, take a look. Operation Blessing in Virginia Beach sent several disaster response teams to the hardest hit parts of the island. Those teams are using a water purification system to help provide clean drinking water to residents. Team members are also helping residents find and test for natural sources of water. The Mercy Chefs from Portsmouth are also on the island, and these volunteers have been feeding residents and first responders hot meals. For the past week, they've been working out of kitchens at Sandals. This is Sandals South Coast Resort in White House, Jamaica. The expansion now allows them to reach even more communities up and down the coast, especially as schools begin to reopen. So think about that. They've been without school now for 3 weeks. So much of the island here absolutely obliterated. And that Sandals South Coast right there, this is where they're working out of having access to those kitchens now and being able to really produce mass amounts. That's awesome, the work that Mercy Chefs is doing. All right, we're going to take a look here at the tropics, and I just got to tell you, while there are a little bit of, you've got some clusters of clouds here, a little bit of unsettled weather just off to the north there and south of Cuba. As we look across the Gulf, it's quiet. Over in the eastern Pacific, nothing happening there. Along the eastern seaboard, we had our cold front come through. Not concerned with this northwest flow. And now across the rest of the basin, everything quiet for now. That's a blessing. Remember, we only have 2 weeks left in the Atlantic hurricane season. So nothing happening in the Atlantic right now, nothing in the Eastern Pacific, and we'll hope that stays the case. All right, we're going to take a short break, 2-minute break, and when we come back, we're going to have a look at the extended U.S. outlook and the week ahead for Hampton Roads. Welcome back to the Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller. As we take a look at what's happening nationally temperature-wise, this is one of the models. We'll just take you forward in time. Remember, we just talked about all the wet weather coming into California, some snow up in the highest elevations, the Rockies back in Colorado, a little unsettled weather up into western parts of Wyoming. Much of the country, though, really not dealing with too much in terms of any stormy weather or anything like that. We'll focus on our temperatures here. And you can see as we take it through the morning, temperatures still chilly up around the Great Lakes region. We'll get a little surge of warmer air back in the central U.S. And as we go over the coming week or so, you're going to find the conditions looking pretty good. But once we get out to the end of the month and out through the early part of December, I wanted to show you wet weather. Above average precipitation is expected back across parts of Arkansas, southern Missouri, back up through northern Colorado into Wyoming and Montana, the Dakotas, northern parts of Minnesota as well. Here along the East Coast from the Northeast U.S. and take a look at Cape Cod and Boston down through the major cities here, back across New York, Philadelphia, New Jersey, these areas here right on the cusp, basically pretty normal or close to normal precipitation. That should be the case for Central Florida as well. Southern Florida maybe slightly above normal precip, slightly above farther inland, but these areas here likely to see more rain. Hopefully, California, Southern California will dry out a bit, but you could still see maybe a little more precip. And again, this is out 8 to 14 days. That's the precip outlook. When we take a look at temperatures, we are looking at above normal temperatures for the eastern U.S. So below normal out west, it'll be cool across the north central U.S. Some of these areas, again, set up to maybe get some more snow, especially in the highest elevations. Around here, it should be a warmer end of November into early December. As I mentioned earlier, I think it was last week, I was reading about some of the longer range guidance hinting that we may get some colder surges into the early to middle part of December. So we'll see if we get some colder air kind of blasting south, kind of what some of the models are hinting at. In the meantime, though, it looks like it will be warm as we go around the Thanksgiving time and into that first day of December. So that's the outlook there. We'll take a look at the forecast across the region, and you can see today temperatures getting up into the 50s. What a change compared to yesterday. Yesterday, we had temperatures up into the lower to mid 70s here in Hampton Roads. Today, we're looking at upper 50s Roanoke, back to Richmond, mid 60s Raleigh and New Bern, significantly cooler than what we saw yesterday. Up in D.C., maybe a slight chance for a sprinkle, 50 the high there today. All right, as we take a look at our lows this morning, it was chilly. We did have some areas down into the upper 20s, Emporia. We did have some readings, also a little cooler for some parts of Chesapeake. You see the lows down around 30, Williamsburg, Newport News, down to 35 in Virginia Beach. And when you looked at the morning lows compared to what we saw yesterday, we were down 30 to 35 degrees from the morning temperatures yesterday. It's very, very mild yesterday. So significantly colder this morning. West Point at 26, Saluda 33 along with Hampton. Just a very chilly start to the day. And our normal low temperature is around 44 for Norfolk. So cool start to the day, and it is going to stay cool. It's also going to get breezier as the day continues. You can see the winds starting to pick up a little bit along the eastern shore. Gusts 25 to 30 miles per hour. Tangier Island with a gust to 33. I do expect with the northwest wind, some of the higher gusts are going to be right along the eastern shore and even down along the Outer Banks where you have some of that water, you know, allowing the winds to ramp up a little bit over land with the friction from the trees and the buildings and everything else. Sometimes it's harder for the winds to really ramp up. But I would say look for the gusts to pick up a little bit across the south side as we go along. We'll see some higher gusts. Duck Pier with a gust to 23. And then the areas inland, probably not as big a deal, but still a little breezy around the middle part of our day today. Here's a live Thompson Creek Window Company sky view, and what a morning. You look out there and you're thinking, this is gorgeous. We've got the sun shining. Hard to see any clouds anywhere out there. It is sunny. At the airport, at times we've seen a few high, thin clouds, but nothing out there right now. 49 degrees, winds are west-northwest at 7 miles per hour. Do look for those breezier conditions to kick in a little bit later on. The pressure is rising. Now, over the next 9 hours, temperatures are going to climb into the mid-50s, and that's really it. Our normal high for this time of year is 62. We will be below average today, and inland areas will be in the mid to upper 50s. Plenty of sunshine through the afternoon and clear skies again into the evening. Now, I mentioned we've got a little bit of unsettled weather off to the north. Let's take this full for a second, and we'll just take a look very quickly at the snow back up over parts of the northeast U.S. Again, while we enjoy the sunshine here, you get up towards portions of New York State. They've got some snow bands kind of working in. We've got a little bit of lake effect snow coming off Lake Huron. Lake Superior as well. You get this cold Canadian air rolling down along the Great Lakes, and that just sets up these bands that come off the lake. So this is what we're watching right now off to the north, and a little unsettled weather kind of wrapping around, bringing that snow back into the northeast where those ski resorts, again, have been in snow drought for a lot of the area. As we expand the view and just show you what's happening again across the rest of the country, very quiet in the southeast U.S. and then out west, I mentioned a little earlier, some of the unsettled weather with an area of low pressure spinning back over Wyoming and Colorado. Some snow for the highest elevations there. As far as the severe weather outlook goes today, really, we're in pretty good shape. I don't really see anybody outlooked by the National Weather Service, the Storm Prediction Center. For tomorrow, it looks good, and really Wednesday looking good as well. So we don't really have to worry about severe weather. I did mention earlier in this edition of the Weather Desk, we do have that potential for excessive rain down across the southern part of the U.S., the southwest there in Southern California. So that's what we're going to be watching. Here in Hampton Roads, we're going to enjoy the sunshine. There are a few clouds out to the west. This area of low pressure, very, very weak. Don't worry about that. It's just a little trough out there with maybe a little bit of an enhanced low. High pressure is the main feature over the eastern U.S. Skies today, sunny. It's a very dry atmosphere. We also have an elevated risk of fire danger today. It's not anything where there's fire watches or anything really significant, but with it being a bit breezy and the humidity being very low, Ground's already dry out there. Just be very mindful of cigarette butts or machinery. If you're operating machinery that gets hot out there and you're around brush or whatever, make sure that there isn't something there sparking. Any type of a wildfire could ramp up pretty quickly. Temperatures today, as I mentioned, will top out in the mid-50s. We'll see mid to upper 50s inland. Plenty of sunshine, winds coming in from the west-northwest, and they'll pick up a bit later on today. Tonight and early tomorrow, low 40s near the coast. Skies still clear, low 30s, maybe even a couple of upper 20s far inland. But the skies are going to be clear. Sunshine early tomorrow. Watch this, though. Clouds are going to increase through the afternoon, and eventually we're going to see a chance for showers by Tuesday evening. Now, initially, it's going to be to the north and west. As we go through the overnight, we'll see our chances here going up for some rain showers early Wednesday. I'll be back here on 13 News Now Plus and on 13 News Now Daybreak Wednesday morning tracking these showers, but they should be out of here shortly after the morning commute. So a little concern we could have some issues with that morning commute, but by 8 o'clock, most of the metro area dry, those showers moving away, and the skies will clear as we go later on in the day on Wednesday. For Thursday, a mix of clouds and sunshine. Friday, a few more clouds. And then into the weekend with the grand illumination coming up this weekend, the big lighting of downtown Norfolk and some of the other cities around the region. Look out. There likely will be some showers, I think, in the mix later on Saturday. Today, we still have small craft advisories. I showed you some of the gusty winds up along the bay. We have a small craft advisory as winds could gust 25 to 30 knots on our coastal waters. Hopefully, things will ease up later on. You can see the winds are expected to subside later in the day, but it's still gusty out there through the middle part of the day. So small craft are going to be asked to stay in port and, again, use caution. Temperatures today, mid-50s near the coast. That includes Virginia Beach. I think town center right around 56 or so. Temperatures farther inland more like 57, 58 degrees, Chesapeake to Suffolk. 56 in Williamsburg, beautiful for Hampton and Newport News. Also Gloucester around 56. Cooler to the eastern shore, low 50s there. Down to the south at the Outer Banks, mid 50s, upper 50s to near 60 for northeast North Carolina. It's going to be another chilly night. Get ready for that, especially inland, upper 20s to low 30s inland, but temperatures closer to 40, maybe 41 right along the water's edge. For tomorrow, 56 the high, evening showers possible. Look for increasing clouds. I do expect some showers into early Wednesday morning, but that stuff's out of here by, say, 8 o'clock or so, maybe 8:30. Then after that, clearing skies, looking good for the afternoon. Thursday looks nice. Friday, some clouds start to push back in. And then on Saturday, showers more likely, especially late Saturday and Saturday evening. Want to remind you, you can always get the latest news, traffic, and weather on the go with the 13 News Now mobile app. What a great resource for you to have access to the radars, to our forecast, those traffic updates, news updates. It's all there on your time and on the go. And again, I'll ask you, if you have an opportunity, share with your friends or your family. Let them know about the Weather Desk. We do this every weekday morning starting at 9 o'clock. We love doing this, and we love looking for these weather stories. Today, a lot of weather. Sometimes we get into more climate stories. We have environmental stories. We have space and space weather related stories. Anything really tapped into science, we love to share with you here on the Weather Desk. Again, I'm meteorologist Craig Moeller, broadcasting from Norfolk, Virginia and Southeast Virginia, but covering weather across the region, across the country, and around the world. Thanks for joining us here on the Weather Desk. We'll see you next time.